Yes, guys, Suki from BTS TV, the Bikini Insider, with the hosts Marnie and Kerry, IFBB Pros. And today we have our next special guest. Let me just do a little run through before I get the full name. So she's gone from the military to the bikini. 2017 when she won her IFBB Pro status, made a debut at the Olympia in 2019, taking ninth place. She came back after a couple of years out in 2024 to win the Atlanta Pro and then take third in the Olympia 2024. It is, of course, Jasmine Gonzalez. Jazzy, how you doing?
Well, good guys. I'm good. It's morning here. Just starting to drink my coffee for the day, get things going. I'm so happy to be here to chat with y'all. Like I'm just so excited to just be able to have the opportunity, getting reached out just to chit chat, talk about the journey. It's been crazy so far.
This is
Well,
an
look,
exciting.
yeah, I tell you what, before I pass it, because I know the girls got questions and we've got plenty more to talk about. I think there's one place I do want to start, and that it isn't around you, Jazz, but the weekend just gone. May as well just touch on this. Was the debut of the Fit Model division that took place at the Muscle Contest at the LA Fit Expo. Really keen to hear everyone's thoughts because this was the first time that division took place, and now we got an idea a bit more about what the judges are looking for. It looked like the numbers weren't too high. There were a few standout competitors. Actually, I had a call earlier with Brian, one of the judges over at Muscle Contests. But I'm keen to hear your thoughts first. So, Jazz, you may as well start with yourself. Did you catch any other division?
Oh, 100% I've kept up. So like what's funny is like I already had talked about it previously about like what I think the division could be or like the opportunities and all this stuff. However, after the weekend, I'm so happy it's launched. Like really happy it's out there. We're getting a start. But I think honestly it was just a little too early to have the first show because they announced this like 4 weeks ago, So like who was really in preparation for that division. Like they gave a criteria of Ashley Cotwalter from the 2015 Olympia. And the overall winner looked amazing. There were some amazing looking women there, but I feel like it was just a little too early to have the first show. I feel like they maybe should have waited till maybe the Pit Pro, like May, give a little longer preparation for maybe some of the ladies who were striving for a bikini but didn't have enough muscle for a bikini, but were able to come prepared for that fit model and get a better understanding of the criteria of what they want. I think it's a great start, anyways. It gets people out there, but I think it's just going to take some time for this to really develop into what fit model is supposed to be and what I perceived it to be when I compare Ashley Cotwalter 2015 Olympia winning look.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. To be fair, I thought exactly the same. There just wasn't like enough people to. You can only judge what's in front of you. So some people have said like really conflicting things. You've seen some really nasty comments on the internet, to be fair, which I think is just savage. Seeing as it's like the first run at it, I think looking at some of the like on the stage posts, I've been quite surprised by like some of the comments that like have been on there and going around. I think it's really like savage, to be honest. I think, like Jazzy said, there's just not been enough time for people to get where they kind of need to be to show what the kind of criteria should be, if that makes sense. So I think it's
Yeah,
just made
I
it.
was just going to say, I think it's still too early to actually use that as the benchmark because that's like your local muscle contest show, right? Like we're comparing Miss Bikini Olympia of what year was it? Did we say 2013, 2015, something like that? Like
15.
yeah, I've been saying this to a lot of my posing clients because it's been popping off in the group chat and everyone's like, they don't look like the lift, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, but again, we all know this, that Ashley has an athletic background since she came out the womb pretty much. So we can't compare your like regional local show to that yet. So I agree. Like, I think once the season actually gets underway and we get like later in the year, once we've had the pro qualifiers, I think that's going to be, more of an indicator because naturally
Like
the standard's always higher at a pro qualifier, never mind fit model, but bikini division as well. Like we hear it all the time. People say, just because you're like competing at a local level doesn't mean that you're ready to compete at a national level or pro level and stuff like that. So that's my take on this.
Yeah, just to put in context, there were 4 open high classes, and across those 4 high classes, there were 11 competitors. So 3 in height A, 3 in B, 4 in C, and only 1 in D. So that gives you an idea of that. Yes, we've got an overall winner in Angie, who's a mother of, I don't know, 3 or 4 kids.
That's incredible. Props to her.
Yeah,
to be fair.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'll bring up the video in a moment. But then that gives you the idea that they've only got a pool of 11 girls to kind of showcase the start of the fit model division, which, as you said, Jazz, is only the start. So 4 weeks prep, really. That explains why the numbers were so low. What I'll do, let me just I'll bring up from the page. Give me one moment. I'll show a comparison I walk. Where is it? Here we go. Let me know if you girls can see this.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they both look absolutely beautiful. Like they both have wow factor, you know. Yeah.
I do like the posing. I like the posing style because it is more like the OG that they want to see with it.
I think from a posing stance, one thing I actually think should be like in the criteria, so to speak, is, you know, when they transition around, I still think that bit should be
hit transition poses
a little less like straight to the back, because it just feels a bit do you know what I mean? Like I still think they could have that part in there essentially.
One thing that I've been saying again, like in regards to posing stuff, is, you know, if I've got any girls that are like, they were doing bikini and they're now transitioning to fit model, I'm saying to them, like, you know, you can watch the old Olympia bikini videos for inspiration, but I'm saying posing as an art form for us has transformed since then. So I'm like, that's not really an indicator of what is to come. I think again, as we see things evolve and, you know, more competitors getting on stage, I think you're going to see a lot more control and composure between poses, like we're saying with transitions and stuff, because there is still a criteria and there is still a risk of showcasing a weakness. So whether that's like, you know, your full round glutes, if you're dropping your arch and you're just flinging yourself around on the stage, I think those days are so far behind us now. So again, it's the old Olympia isn't really an indicator. And again, I think like this one show doesn't give us a wide enough view yet.
But am I correct that they've made it so you can't like hold your transitions?
Yeah, that's exactly what it seems like in the criteria. However, I feel like it's more so like in bikini, you're given like, even as amateurs, you're given like an opportunity to go from like a front and step to a transition and hold the transition pose. But I feel like what it should be is you hold your fitness model front pose. You can slide into a transition pose for a second, but not just like gloss through to the back. Like hit a glute salute for a second.
No, I
think it should be allowed, and I think it is. You know, I don't think you have to like breeze through it, but it is how it is written in the criteria. It's the same thing with like bikini. If we really look at the criteria, it says you have up to 10 seconds on stage, and let's be real, does any amateur just hit 10 seconds?
Yeah,
that's very least 15.
It feels like impossible sometimes to actually get someone's routine down to that without showing any weakness. Like to really nail your criteria, like you've got to have those transitions. The transitions should look like poses, really. Like you shouldn't really ever have a stage shot where you're just like midair, like.
I always tell 10 seconds. I'm like, we'll get it in 10 seconds. They're not sitting with a timer at the end of the day. Obviously, you're aiming to get there as quick as possible, but not so much so that you look like not right.
To be fair, actually, Jazzy, you might have more insight on this than we do being in the UK, but I've spoke to like some girls who've done posing with me that at the US shows, some of them, the local shows, there actually is someone there at the side of the stage and they'll say next after like 10 seconds.
Oh yeah, there's expediters there sometimes. So me as a posing coach, I tell my clients, like, if you are someone standing on stage, there's gonna be times that the expediter is gonna make you go when somebody's still in their back pose. I'm like, hold your ground and let that girl finish. Or, if you are there in the box and you see this girl coming, she can wait. You finish your routine because they will rush. They will rush
You know what?
people. They
That happened
have
to me.
someone that like next. As soon as you in your back pose for like literally a second, they're sending the next person in.
What happened to me when I competed in the Florida show, I think it was that one. It was awful. I actually look back at the video and I'm like, oh my God, like, but this person at the side of the stage was telling me, go, go, go. And like this girl was still posing. I'm like on stage, like, and I'm thinking my video is going to be ruined. I like walked out and then I was like, stop, she must come off now. And she's carried on. And I'm like in the background, I might as well be like this in her video. That was really awkward. But they do just push you, to be fair, to go. And I was like, I ain't buying that video. That's done. But there's nothing I could do. They kept telling me to go. So yeah, I suppose you do get that, don't you, to be fair? Which ain't great.
Yeah. I think it depends on the show.
Yeah.
Go on.
Just before we wrap up on the fit model side, when I know, obviously, looking at the calendar, it looks like this is Jazz. When is the next show in North America? Because I know the shows now are very much focused around the Asia territory. Obviously, in Europe, it doesn't really kick on until March time. So it looks like yeah. So we are going to see a bit of a break really before like a lot of the football classes restart March time. So for the next 2 months, this is going to be used as now the blueprint, the standard, until we start seeing the shows happening back to back. This was one where it was just one show the weekend. Come March time, we're going to be seeing 3, 4, 5 shows happening the same weekend.
Gotta see what's in Florida. We gotta see what's in Texas. This was in, California with like what you said, 11 across the board. Like, I think if we look at just other places, just different regions of the United States as well, where there's gonna be a lot more shows in different areas, we'll see just a little bit like, okay, where's this going? But even before Pit Pro, we've got different things like the Girl Powers, the Wasatch Warriors that bring, quite a bit of competitors. However, I'm thinking like those, like I said, the bikini girlies that want to compete, but they probably fit model a little bit more, already have developed well with posing. They're just switching over to fit model posing. We'll see like that evolve. The physique's a little bit more in line with what they want. They'll have a lot more to choose from and define what this division should be between now and then when those shows happen, for sure.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you can only judge what's in front of you, and someone had to win.
100%.
What have you girls got any clients who are looking to compete in the fit model division? What have you been saying to them at the moment, knowing that you haven't got enough data to work off? How have you been?
Wait, I tell them wait. I'll just keep doing your work, keep training. Some of them that don't even have enough muscle for like bikini yet, I'm like, just keep training, because they're saying it's like a couple steps down from like that bikini muscle. They're natural as well. So I'm just like, just keep training, keep developing, and we'll just watch what happens. And you're gonna either start in fit model. If they say you too big, next week you're gonna go do bikini, and we're gonna see what's up.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think for mine, like, I'm getting them ready with enough time to be able to dictate like the look and manipulate the look. Sorry. So if, I'm looking at them thinking you're a hair too lean, we've got weeks ahead of us before the show to be able to manipulate that look, to bring them in fuller, for example, or a bit leaner. So just, I'm kind of going with that open mindset and making sure they're at a point where we can manipulate the look, to be honest.
I've got a girl she's been posing with me for, maybe a year and a half now. And she actually competed in bikini at a regional show last year. And she was told, like, she's tiny, like shorter than me, which is hard because I'm only 5 foot. So she's literally like 4'11", so tiny. Was told like you need to grow everywhere, and she kind of went into this big off season, and she just wasn't enjoying that part of the process of like eating more food and whatever. And she comes in condition, but she always struggled with like the tie-ins and things like that. And so when Fit Model was announced, straight away she was like, I'm done with bikini. This is like where my heart is gonna lie now. So she was saying like, I'm gonna compete in April, because we are gonna have that debuting at the first regional in the UK, aren't we? Which is first weekend of April. So and then 2 weeks later we've got the Ben Weider Pro Qualifier as well. So I assume they're going to give out a pro card, which is cool. But she's taken to it like a duck to water, because all the kind of like underlying posing principles that we've talked about with bikini, the same thing kind of still applies here in like your transferable posing skills. But there's certain things that we've decided to change. So like, you know, not doing a power pose, not having your hands on your hips and doing anything that makes you look more muscular. Whereas for bikini, we tried to make her look bigger, if that makes sense, just through the poses. So I'm excited, but she's really enjoying it. And before she competed with the NPC, she did like a fitness fashion federation before, and she wanted to try bodybuilding. And I honestly feel like this class was just made for someone like her, because now she got the opportunity to compete with the NPC without the pressure of like, you need to grow, because a lot of women don't want to. Like, that's something that I've realized going through the sport in the pro league now. Like, the demands for bikini, obviously we'll talk about this with you, Jazzy, but the demands for the muscle in bikini now are not what they were a few years ago. So yeah, that's my take on things.
It's mixed. I've had some clients of mine, like they were, when it first was announced, like the Fit Model, they were like, yes, like I'm in. And then once it's happened, I've actually had quite a lot turn around to me and say, I'm out. Like, I need to hold on. I prefer bikini. That's how I want to look. Let's continue growing. Like, I'm not doing Fit Model. I think some people saw it as more like the easier route. So it was kind of like, oh, I can get on stage sooner, but they've not, a lot of them, to be honest, haven't liked the look of it. So it's been interesting. But I'm going to get into Jazzy now. Can we switch this
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that.
We need to pick your brains, gal. Especially because you're in prep for the frickin' Arnold. How is it going?
4 weeks out, less than 4.
Good. No, a little less than 5. Well, 5.5, you would say. And 4.5, you would say.
Yeah. And how are we feeling?
Good. I'm good. I'm feeling great. Like, smooth as motherfucking fuck, if I can cuss on here. But no, it's so good. It's been the smoothest ride because post Olympia, I kept everything to a mother effing T through my reverse. So I didn't get above like 5-6 pounds of my stage weight. So I started prep just right after Thanksgiving, essentially. So like the week before Christmas, I started my prep for the Arnold. So I'm sitting now just, 4 pounds from my depleted weight and 2 pounds above my stage weight, just chilling. And cardio is pretty Gucci. I'm like 35 minutes a day. I'm just eating about 1,600 calories. I'm like smooth sailing, like energy is still up, but I do feel like eventually it's gonna come down just because, you know, the rigors of prep, but it's been chill now. I feel good. It's been good. I'm still pushing. I'm pushing in the gym still. I'm still surprised, like days, like especially so. Obviously, the last week I was going through, you know, my ovulation cycle, so energy was a little lower, and I wasn't like pushing like to the PRs that I was hoping to get on certain things I do, like hip thrusts for sure. But this week, I've been surpassing certain things, and I'm like, I don't know how. I'm like, I'm lit. Like it's crazy, but I'm feeling good.
Oh, happy days. How long was how long off season did you have? Sorry.
Off season, I would say like 10 weekish.
Yeah.
Post Olympia. Yeah, it wasn't much long, but I wouldn't count it much as an off season. Like just reversed like for like 4 weeks, and then had like 4 or 5 weeks at about 2,000 calories weekly cheat meal, like 20 minutes cardio, just kind of cruising and maintaining. But yeah, and had food high, cardio low, and just just trickling it up a little bit, dropping food a little bit. But it's been going well.
So how has, by the looks of it, that's been your best like reverse, would you say?
Ever.
What
Yeah. In my 8 years of competing, hell yeah, that was like to the T. It was lit. I was telling Cash, I was like, yo, bro, I'm maintaining. I'm feeling so good. I'm on point. It's good to him, man. He be expecting, like, if you mess anything up, he will tell you, I'll block you and I'll fire you. Like, he demands like execution. And so it's not like, he's being a dick or anything like that. It's just he demands the best out of you if you're gonna be working to be like a top athlete. And like where I ended up with Olympia, and then like where I'm striving to go with the Arnold and this year, like, he's gonna be straightforward with things with me. And so yeah, that's everything in my universe, because I didn't want to be able to check in and be like, hey, yo, I messed this up, or I over, because verbal ass whooping I would have gotten as an athlete, which I would need if that's the case, because I don't need nobody telling me, okay, you had a bad week, so let's just try and get back on track. Nah, don't tell me to try. You better tell me you messed up and you need to get your shit together on firing your ass if you want to play around, because you want to be XYZ, act like it. And so that's why I did it. I was like, I want to be XYZ, so I better act like it and bring it every week. And so I was like, and it was honestly, when you change the mind of it and you perceive it a certain way, like you're like, okay, definitely, I want to be a champ. I want to be at the top. I need to shift my gears and stop thinking with my emotionally like human nature. Like I'm trying to be this super physiological freaking physique on stage. I have to change the mindset that, I need to execute everything 100% to maintain a certain distance from that, so that when it's ready to strike, I'm ready to strike.
100%. I think that's like a really important thing. I think when your coach is like aligned with that, like mine is for me, like I'd say last year was the year where it was like I realized that, if that makes sense. So in terms of like if I missed anything, it wouldn't just be like, oh well, it's like, why? You say you want this. It's like your coach needs to align with where you're at. And this year it's just been like habitual. There's nothing that's like she's happy with me. There's no like pressure, because I just do and do it how it's meant to be done. And I think when you are wanting to get to those levels, like you have, like I want to, there's no room for it. People can say to you, oh, how do you deal with like your coach? Aren't they really hard on you? And it's like, no, they're not hard on me, because they are in alignment with what I want. So they're matching up to what I say I want. The difference is, do you really want it or do you not?
Absolutely. You just got to work hard, and you need a coach that's going to demand that from you and not be like, take it easy on you, especially at these levels. Like, there's no room for that. Like, I always compare it. You know what I compare it to? It's like the best in the world, like sports and the NBA, NFLs. You think those coaches are like, oh, you can't run your hurdles today or your sprints today. You had a bad day. No. Okay, nah, they like, get up and go, get this shit going. You better execute, keep it going, work hard so that you bring your absolute best. And that's what's worked for me, and that's what's gotten me to where I've gotten and been able to do what I do, working as hard as I can in the gym and always striving for, heavier lifts and just pushing as hard as I can there and sticking to my, diet. Just the variables that in the past, like I had little leniencies in that I didn't take as seriously, to get to where I got to. Like, great, but I couldn't expect, top tier level, and I'm out here still messing around with some of the variables that need to be in check. And it comes like having somebody like highlight these things and like being on my ass if I say, because like, not to say anything about any coaches in the past, but like I've had coaches that were I think I would say more lenient on these variables. And so like especially off seasons or reverses, like if I said, you know, I messed up, it was like, oh, what happened? Oh, you okay? Like like that's great and all, but like where trying to go, I can't have somebody being like, that's okay. You know, conditioning your mindset. It needs to be what the fuck, what happened, why? Like,
Yeah.
do you not want this? Like, do you not want this? Like, you're choosing to do this, like, kind of thing. Like, great, life happens in certain things. If that's the case, then you take a break. You're not going to compete. And that's what my coach would do is like, if you got some life shit that's going to affect your prep and your ability to bring your damn best, you're pulling out the game. You know, he's not going to put you on stage, you know, having subpar actions going to the, you know, Olympia or like doing these things that you want to do for the year. So it's like you better execute if you ain't got some shit that's really, you know, an excuse or a reason to be acting any less than 100%.
I think it
I
makes
love
you
that.
so much stronger as an athlete, though. Like, to be honest, so much stronger as an athlete. But the thing is, it also just then becomes like the norm. Like for me, it was new being with Meg like last off season, and I macro tracked for like 2 weeks, and she's like, I'm not even having you macro tracking because your digestion's off. I need to know what's like exactly what you're having. Like, so I track salt year round, water year round, same like food sources. I can switch here and there. But I think like, and then this year going into post show off season, absolutely sweet. No food focus, no, just focus on where I want to be and what I want to do. And that's it. Nothing else. And I think it is a shift. And I think you do mature into that as you like get deeper into the sport, and that post show becomes essentially easier, but you become more like your desire towards that goal is stronger. So you're gonna fucking do what you think no one else is doing or more than what someone else is doing. And I think sometimes like the approach what your previous coach or coaches had can work for some people, but not for everyone. And I think that's where it's like,
I was just going to say, I definitely agree with that when you said like almost maturing into it. And I think as well, and it'd be interesting to hear like your thoughts on this, Jazzy, almost like maybe in the past, and this is the case for me as well, post shows maybe haven't gone as well because I haven't done as well during the season maybe. And so in a way, it's kind of like self-sabotage. Whereas now you are like, it's almost like, I don't know if you're religious, but like God has been like, this is what you're capable of. Now, what are you going to do with it? And so you've taken that and you've
percent.
it.
Listen, so it's like I stumbled upon bodybuilding. Like I was in the military, you know, my first thing was I was in school, aimed to go to school, or I then out of nowhere decide, hey, I'm gonna join the military. I was in the military. I used to make fun of bodybuilders, like I'm telling you.
I was the same.
Like, like I had a whole old like coworker who was like into it and shit. And I was like, the hell are you doing? Like, let's go drink, let's go party and stuff like that. So I stumbled onto bodybuilding and just so happened to have, you know, a really good work ethic, like in anything that I did when it was in high school to be able to apply for certain colleges and scholarships or to be in the military and working as hard as I can to get certain like statuses, levels, awards, and things like that. To then getting into bodybuilding, I just worked hard. I just had that innate nature and discipline to do so. And so I just happened to be good at it. And so, like, when it came to like leveling up through, because I got my pro card in like 8 months of like competing and not knowing jack shit about bodybuilding, not even knowing what the pro level was, what an Olympia was, what anything was. I just like kept going and just leveled up through it with the work that I did. But like my work wasn't like as good as it could be, like as exceptional as it could be. I just did it. So then over time, like I noticed, like with especially certain coaches or phases that I went through, one off season, there was no plan in place. So I just fucked around and just ate whatever and did whatever and would gain up to, you know, 20 pounds in that off season. And then at that point though, I had a physique when I was young enough that would drop weight in like 6 weeks, like 20 pounds, boom, boom, boom. But my feedback would always be, you're like flat, or you have, issues with conditioning. And me not realizing it's like, oh, because I gained all this weight by just gapping my off seasons off. But because I always felt like, oh, I'm able to get ready quick, I'm Gucci. But then it came a time as, I got older, I'm like, that shit didn't work no more, And so I went from going crazy my off seasons and just whatever to like having a coach who would, give me an off season thing, but the accountability factor wasn't as, on point for what I needed, because I respond very well to somebody having expectations of me and setting a standard that I have to like reach. And if I don't, I'll feel like shit. I'll feel guilty, kind of thing. I just don't want to disappoint at the end of the day. So getting with a coach that, sets a certain standard, has an expectation of the way you do things, I started to mature in like what I need to do in order to get to where I finally realized I wanted. Because I didn't even know I wanted to win the Olympia one day, or get to the Arnold Sports and win the Arnold Sports one day. I was just grateful to freaking be here, kind of thing. So like going into this Olympia, my goal is just like, I want to get top 10. My last Olympia was kind of like trash. I got like almost like 27th, 28th place from, top 10 in my first one. I just want to, get out there. Nobody got me in their predictions, whatever, it's okay. But I know what I am capable of, kind of thing. But like, I was like unsure of like what I really, really want out of this. Cause I even before the Olympia was talking to my coach and was like, man, like all I want to like get is like top 10. That'll be great. Second call out towards the center will hopefully get me into the top 10 is what I was hoping for, kind of thing. And then I was like, and then maybe in like 2 or 3 years, I could see myself in the top 5, kind of thing. So I just at that point didn't know what I truly was capable of doing. So when Olympia happens and I'm just in the first call out, and I'm like, confirm like top 10. I'm just geeking. I'm like, yeah, kind of thing. So then when top 4 happens, I'm like freaking out, because the moment I started to freak internally, like, holy shit, like, is when I saw Isha Bikini move out and I'm like moved in. And so, like, everyone has had her as a shoe in for like top 5, kind of thing. So that's when my mind started to like blow, because I'm like, am I in the freaking top 5? Where the hell am I standing on stage right now, like toward comparison to the center? And then when I realized I was next to Laura Lee, I was like, oh, fuck. I'm like, okay. So then when that happened, like, I'm like, okay, I'm mind blown. Like the whole thing continued to happen. I'm just like looking at my coach freaking out. And I'm like, so then after the whole prejudging's done, finals happens, and I get third. Like I did have that moment with God. After the whole day's done, I'm in the bathroom. Like, this is like, I'm like taking my wig off, washing my makeup off. I'm like sitting there, I'm like looking in the mirror. I'm like, yo, this is what I'm like capable of doing. Like, when I like do the work 100% with no error in any area. Like, what can I really truly achieve if I just keep doing this? Because, you can keep rising to the top so long as the effort is compounded over time, kind of thing. So that's why now I continued on from my Olympia experience. I made my reverse even more 100,000% without like missing a single beat with like the variables with like the training, the nutrition, like continuing working on training, but like really pushing it to where like I know what I need to work on, and working on that thing to the max, knowing what's worked already to this point, to where I went from like taking a whole year off from competing, and then getting with a coach where I started, training a certain way, adhering to things a certain way. I'm like, that happened within the span of like a year and a half, like with him. Now let's continue and see like what this happens over time, just repeating the same shit that worked, and maybe get to where I was, which was impeccable training and an execution and effort and hard work in my off
There was a
season.
point where
And
I thought there was a point where I thought, oh my God, she could take the win here. Like, genuinely, I had goosebumps the whole time. I've followed you for such a long time, Jazzy, and like, I think people that are listening to this right now are really going to take some important lessons from hearing about your journey, because to me, it sounds like you've really had like not just a physical transformation, but I'm so big on the inner work and just spiritually. It sounds like you've come such a long way. Like, you've got out of your own way and you've almost just surrendered to the process. So yeah, I can relate to a lot of what you've just said. I was going to ask you as well, did you like what was the game plan after the Olympia, aside from the whole, off season, keeping things tight? Like, was there any specific areas of feedback that you were like, these are the gaps that I need to fill now in order to go up again? Was there anything that stood out to you? Or
The only thing, like, cause my feedback post Olympia was that my hamstrings were just a touch, hard for prejudging. Finals, they did look a little bit softer. So for us, we just figured it's just continue working to add that density to the glutes. And so that, like, when I condition down, my hamstrings, of course, tend to condition down just a little bit faster than my glutes. So just adding a little bit more of that density and, 3D concrete, just time under, the weights over time. Like when I lean out, since those glutes will be so bodaciously dense and concrete, it won't take as much time to condition them down, and my hamstrings won't, get too conditioned faster than, the glutes kind of thing there. So that's our, feedback there. So what I just changed is I'm just making sure that what worked in the past for me to bring my density up for conditioning to be good. Because that was my issue always in the past, is that I lacked pop and densities because my training was shit in the past. Like my first like 4 or 5 years of competing, I didn't have a training program. Like I just went into the gym like, what do I want to do today? Kind of thing. That worked to a certain extent, but like I was not pushing, weights. I wasn't working as hard as I could. I was like keeping a certain level and like maybe increasing here and there, but I wasn't like being as intentional as I could have been, So it was just taking, like I said, what I did for this time, which is that intentional training, like to a core and like bringing my glutes up to that point, seeing that now conditioning ain't a motherfucking issue no more for me. Like it's there. It's just now adding a little bit more of that density to the glutes so that when I do bring the conditioning, it's like a good flow between the glutes and hamstrings where my hamstrings aren't a little too hard because they just get leaner faster.
May I ask what your training split is?
Oh yeah. So okay, so day one is shoulders, then back, shoulders, glutes, back. Rest day, glutes, then shoulders and back, rest.
So just literally continuous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. You guys, I feel like there's always a difference between the way you guys train in the US compared to like the UK.
yes.
But this year, my
Really?
training,
What do you guys do?
well, my training splits changed this year, to be fair. So it's more higher rep, but usually it's like a top set and a back off set. So like 2 sets only. That's more of a common like UK thing, would you say, Man?
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. I do like 2 working sets. Yeah.
Whereas mine's changed this year. To be fair, I'm injured at the moment, so that's another story. But it has changed on paper. We've increased now to like four sets in some movements, more kickbacks and stuff like that. But like I'm only training now, glutes off, glutes off, glutes off, glutes off. So that's how I'm doing it. But do you do like a top set and a back off set, or are you more of like a kind of thing?
We do like so like most of my exercises, let's say for like glutes, and it's even same for like upper body, it's progressive overload is just the general approach. 4 sets, 8 to 15 reps. My first set is 15, my next set's 12, 10, 8. Whatever I can push as hard as I can to have impeccable form for my first set of 15. Then the same thing, increase a little bit of weight for that set of 12 and just impeccable form and just doing that. And then like each week, maybe increasing each of those weights for each set just incrementally, whether it's like 2.5, we have pounds, or 5, whatever, for like upper body, and then for lower body, can I add another 10 pounds this week to these lifts, but like not just this one set, each of the sets, can they all like increase a little bit more in what your, I guess you would say, top set of 8 reps that you do your heaviest. But I train to failure, with each. It's like leaving like every set that I do with the amount of weight that I do, even though it's like lighter weight, higher reps, and then we change, increase the weight, lower the reps. Can I, hit a little bit more weight and keep that form on point with that there?
So ours is like the reverse. So like my top set like would used to have been like let's say 8 to 10. So I would warm up until I'm at like, okay, yeah, I know I can run like 35 kg for dumbbell RDL or something like that in each hand, for example. And I'd run that up. That would be my top set. And then my back off set, I would drop like 2.5 kilos. So if I'm like 37.5 dumbbells in each hand or whatever, then my back off set would be 12 to 15, but with 35 kg in each hand. So it's different to how you do it. It was always progressive overload, but I feel like my coach has looked a lot at like what you guys do to kind of learn into this. And like they seem to have changed their training approach, even through men's open bodybuilding, even. So that's even changed from my. Yeah. A lot of it's changed. He's got like 4 sets on some exercises now, 3 sets, more reps, things like that. Doesn't mean like, again, it's still progressive overload and still fucking hard and whatever. But yeah, it's different in that sense. And actually saying that, on my training program, I have got some sets where it is 12 to 15 and then 8 to 10 now, whereas before it would be switched. So I feel like my training is starting to adapt to the way you guys have your training set out. But the way I see it is, you look at the Olympia, and all of the athletes are from the States, all the ones that are doing well. So to me and my coach, it was kind of like, well, none of us European people are kind of, we're doing well where we can, like over here and stuff, but where it matters, what's the difference? Is there a difference in the way your muscle shows up on stage if you've got a higher rep range or more sets on one thing or something like that? So it's kind of like mirroring what you guys are doing, because you guys are essentially the top tier, the best in the States. Yeah. So it's interesting to hear. Like, I'm really intrigued by like the way you train, and I like watching all of like what you kind of do and stuff, because it's been a shift for me this year. So yeah, that's interesting.
Oh, that's so cool. That's cool to know. Like, I didn't know like the whole, like the difference obviously in training styles that there are, like from just region to region, how people perceive things. So I'm just happy that you guys are like taking some things and just applying and seeing how it works. That's awesome. It's
And
awesome
it does
to
seem
hear.
to work. And so yeah, it is interesting. I'm trying to think.
Jazz, yeah, look, you know what I'm gonna go straight into. Let's talk Arnold's.
Yes.
Let's not sugarcoat it, and let's call it how it is. Fortunately, Laura Lee is out. Ashley Cole Wasser isn't doing it. Arnold, she's focusing towards the back end. So let's just go through ranking system. That puts you really as the favorite, the front runner. So with that, when Laura Lee dropped out, unfortunately, did you feel maybe any new pressure now? And look, you talked about the fact that at Olympia you were happy, like, let's get top 10, all of a sudden top 5, 4, you're in third. What are you feeling now going into the Arnold's as really the favorite and the front runner for the title?
I don't feel any pressure, more so, I would say, just because like I practice gratitude in everything I do. So I'm just really happy to be able to have the opportunity to even compete there. I haven't competed at the Arnold. So like we can't forget that Amy also was second at the Arnold last year too. So she's still competition regardless. She looks absolutely amazing when she's at her best. And so like I still have to ensure that I'm able to beat any and every person on stage that's at their very best. So all I'm doing is bringing the very best I can to secure the spot, so much as if I deserve it and, you know, earn it at the end of the day. So like I just work my hardest, and, you know, all I can rely on is the effort that I put in. And that's what I'm proud of and excited about. So I don't put pressure on myself when I go into shows, like ever. Like
I was
I
go-
just go because the way I see it is I've done things outside of this that require so much more like pressure to perform, that this is a journey of where like no matter where I go, I can always improve. I've already proved now to myself that I can go from being at the very bottom and rise to the top. I'm like, what's stopping me from continuing to level up? Me. So what am I gonna do? Work hard, continue to work hard, and enough soon enough, that's gonna pay off. And if I am next in line to, you know, finally like win one of these big freaking shows, like hell yeah, fuck yeah, the work is paid off. That's awesome. Like I'm just not gonna stop regardless. It's like,
Like,
hey, I'm next. I'm next. Fuck yeah, because I worked there. I worked my hardest to get there, and that's it. I can't control what anyone else is bringing at the end of the day, you know? So I'm
Yeah.
just focused on me and what I'm able to bring. And if that means that, you know, other people weren't able to show up because of that, and now it's like, hey, it is what it is. And if I'm next in line, great. But that's only dependent on like what I bring against what other people bring and the work that I put in for it. So yeah,
I think
no
that's a good way of
pressure.
looking at it, because you can't control who the person that's least favorite to win it might show up like a G and take it, you know? Like you just don't
Like
know.
I was not a favorite going into the Olympia. I was,
Okay.
like I said,
I
I
had
wasn't in
been in
nobody's
top five.
predictions out there. Like there was maybe one or two people because of my
We're in
people who
like,
follow me. Exactly. The people who followed me from the beginning and were able to see, oh shit, like look at what I'm bringing.
yeah,
I'm like, I know what I'm capable of. I know I can get in top 10. The fact that no one had me like, you know, big shows and stuff like that and predictions didn't have me in their top 10 or 15. I'm like, okay, so I'm just doing what I do, is working incredibly freaking
yes.
hard. Does that mean I'm working harder than anybody that's being predicted? I don't know. Like I'm just doing me. They're doing their thing, but I'm just working hard. And guess what? That was highlighted by what I brought, and the judges just saw the physique, and that was just a result of what I did.
Yeah.
So if I can continue to do what I do, you know,
I think
if
it
I
was
earn it, I earn it.
the overall look for you, Jazzy, like just last year, I was going to say this year, last year, like when you won the show and everything to qualify for the Olympia, like I think that was just the best you that we ever saw. Like the energy was different, the hair, the suit, the posing. Like, do you feel that you've now found like your look? Because obviously we've seen you have different looks on stage over the years. And I think again, maybe the listeners would be interested to hear about that, because you know, you've obviously had to experiment as you've gone through the pro league, especially winning your pro card so early. So yeah, how do you feel like you found that look now, your signature look?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm bringing pretty much the same look to the Arnold. I'm actually just gonna be getting a fresh set of the boho braids though, because I really love the boho braids. Just not as big with the shoulder area, but you know, I want to bring what like makes me feel comfortable. Like I like the curly hair, but I don't like wearing wigs. I really hate wearing wigs. Like the comfort for me. I don't care how it's laid. So like I want to do what's comfortable, but still feels me. And I found a look with the boho braids, just, you know, contained enough so that it doesn't overcome my shoulders. But with the blue suit, 'cause I love the blue suit, that shit be popping. I'm like, damn. Like,
Yeah,
I just loved it. It's so good against the tan. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah,
I think
really
when you find your look, it definitely feels right. I feel like
good.
that happened to me,
It's
like not last year, but the year before. I feel like I found the green suit, as much as doing like so many shows in the same color suit is a bit like, huh. But once you find it, you just know that like that's it. Like I just, yeah,
yeah,
and you feel so much
yeah.
more like confident. And before, I don't know about you, but I always just felt like there was something missing, and it just didn't feel right ever. And then once you finally find that one, you're like, yes, that's it. I have a question for you. Oh, just throwing my pen. Going back to like 2022, 23, where were you at like through that time? Do you mind delving into like any of that? Why you took time off? How that made you feel coming back?
Yeah, man, I went through. Okay, so there was like a period after like August time when I like competed Pacific USAs. I swear maybe from like August to like February, I like kind of like almost ghosted social media for a minute. Like I was like maybe barely on. I would like post when I maybe went on like some trips. Like I was like just out of touch. I just completely like went into like a full on like depression. So after I moved from Tampa to like West Palm Beach, I like started like just getting a little bit back to myself. And then at this point, I was like, I needed to just really delve into like my mind and like setting shit up for myself. I was like immersed in a lot of like just family things, relationship things, and I was just like completely overcome with just the stressors of like things that were unresolved from even like the reason why I had even started bodybuilding. Like I used bodybuilding as a distraction from certain things I was going through, like through my last year in the military, because I started competing when I was in my last year active duty. So I used bodybuilding as a way to kind of like get me through certain things, but I never addressed none of that stuff. And then amongst all that stuff, I had extra life things that happened that, these like traumas kind of like get triggered and then just revealed. And then no longer does your distraction of what I was using bodybuilding as help anymore. So that's why I had to take time away. So I took that time to like feel. That's why I like kind of like pulled away, because I needed to feel everything, face everything and address it, and then start to be aware of what it was that was causing me to like make certain choices that got me to certain situations, and like really dive into the mental, and then eventually I woke up. I felt, I worked I'm gonna talk about it. I worked at a strip club as a bottle girl server, and it was honestly like, I'm not promoting guys to go and like find yourself or become confident through this means of work. Okay, it was a wild place, and that's why I didn't last long there, because I was like, this shit's too crazy. But it was great because it was revealing to me what certain things I needed to work on were just confidence in myself, being able to speak up for myself in certain situations, that just helped me understand like what I needed to work on outside, you know, of bodybuilding, finding myself outside of the roles that I found myself in. So that's why I kind of stepped away. It's like I had to figure out who Jazzy was, as a person, what I liked, what made me happy, and heal from certain things. But then there just came the point where that I knew I wanted to come back. I really wanted to get back to competing, but I needed to make sure that all my life things are kind of like in a good spot where I wasn't like putting myself in certain situations that pulled me away from having the mentality and the mindset that I needed to focus on bodybuilding.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's really, really powerful to share. And thanks for sharing that with us, because, I think it's quite common, I think, for a lot of us in bodybuilding to have gone through something quite deep or traumatic, because it's such an extreme lifestyle and way of living that it is a distraction for a lot of people. And there might be someone listening right now that can just relate to what you've said and think, oh yeah, like this happened to me or whatever. And like, you are so like this all the time that everything else outside of that, you just have your blinders on, right? And the years pass so quick. And I think if you don't work through what you need to work through, one, I don't think that you can fulfill your best, arguably, because there's always going to be that mental block there. But secondly, when you do eventually step away from the sport, you are going to have to deal with whatever it is that you haven't dealt with. So I think the fact that you've managed to do that whilst competing, but knowing that there was more to come in your story and in your journey, is so commendable, because look where you are now, and I really don't think that happens by mistake. Like, I think if you hadn't had that time away, you know, when people say the whole like every setback is for the comeback, or comeback's better than the setback, like you are literally a walking example of that, you know. So yeah.
100%. And then I didn't expect it to be at this point either, you know, and it just goes to show, like, I think the biggest thing is just getting your mind right. You know, there's a lot of people walking around broken and not realizing they are. And the thing is, what'll show you if you have things to work on is, you know, what you're able to succeed or accomplish. If you feel like the things that you're trying to pursue are kind of like taking a little longer to get them done, or you're like having so many like setbacks along the way, bumps in the road, maybe you need to take a step back, you know, so you don't have to experience such a big setback in what you're trying to do. Take a step back, work on the shit that you need to, so that you can go ahead and then have a better mind, an open, clear, like weight free mind to be able to allow for the things that you want to do to fill in and be able to truly focus in on those things. Because when you have all this shit around you and you know in the back of your head there's financial issues, there's family issues, there's relationship issues, there's these issues, but you're using this as a distraction from that, but you got this holding you back, it's gonna pull you the fuck back to a point sometimes into a hole that you wouldn't imagine finding yourself in. And that's where I found myself. But that's when I finally realized it. And that's why I took that time to get out of it and knew there was more for me, because I knew there was more. I was just like, I know I'm on a rut, but I'm going to come back and I'm just going to work my way back up. You know, people may forget about me, but that's okay. Whatever. They're going to see soon enough. Like, you can't deny the fact. You know, once you bring it, you bring it at the end of the day, and eventually the judges will notice. And I'm happy they noticed, you know. I'm just happy I brought what I needed to bring. I'm like, yes.
I have a question for you. What is life like outside of like bodybuilding, or your day-to-day like life? Do you get out much? Do you see friends? Are you more tunnel vision on bodybuilding? Like, where are we at in that kind of?
I'm kind of a loner, I would say. You know, I just stay at home with my dog. I work from home. I go to the gym. Like, I have an apartment that has like a dope ass big gym. I just finally showed my coach. He's like, "What the hell? You have a whole ass, that's a legit ass gym in your apartment in
Wow.
Oklahoma City?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's actually really nice." So like I get out of the apartment like 2 times a week for glute days to go to the gym. And then I go there, but I just like to be at home, work on my client stuff, and that's really it for me. Like, especially in prep. Like when I'm not in prep, like recently I've started to go to like little like shows and raves and stuff, see like listen to DJs and house music. I like that sometimes from time to time. So I like to dance and like
Yes.
like so it's fun, but like on a usual, I'm just home.
Yeah, we vibe. I'm the same. Like, if I look back over like the past few months, it's just I'm kind of like, me and Mark said this the other day. We're kind of like, yeah, we don't really get out much, but like, and that like satisfies us enough. And other than that, it's like we just want our routine to be. I want to go to sleep at this time. I want to be awake at this time. I want to do client work at this time. I go to the gym, perform my best at that time. So yeah, it's interesting that you're like that, and I feel like that seems to be a little bit of a like. It's different between. We spoke to Angelica, and she's different in that sense, isn't she? Ashley is more regimented, like when we spoke to her in that sense. Yeah, so I'm going to ask that question frequently, I think, on these, just to get an insight of who's doing what in their free time and where they're at.
Jazz,
Yeah,
before we get close to wrapping up, if everything goes to plan, what's your 2025 schedule looking like when it comes to shows?
Yeah, what we doing?
It's gonna just be the Arnold, and then I'm shutting it down.
Until
I want to start traveling and doing like different things that I'm, being requested to come out to. I'm looking to possibly set up a trip to Germany for the FIBO. So just getting on a call eventually this week with a company out there that wants to bring me out, work like a booth at the 5-0 event, which would be freaking great. So I just want to start doing things like that, doing some seminars all over the place, and just getting out there. Like I really want to go overseas. I want to go overseas, and the goal of mine just in this year, like after Olympia, is to compete in Japan. Like those are the. I just want to go back to Japan. It's been like 10 years since I've been to Japan because I was in that Japan for 3 years in the military. So that's why it's a goal. So that's like kind of what it is. But after the Arnold, since I'm already qualified for the Olympia, I want to just focus in on just bringing the very best I can at the Olympia.
That sounds epic. And I may see you at FIBO.
Yes.
And then you need to come here and we need to do a seminar here.
I know. I'm really like, I'm gonna sit and like devise plans and see things because if I'm gonna, be, taken out there, like just see what dates and things like that look like and maybe extend my trip just to be able to go around. I have a couple other people I know out in like the UK, of course. So it'd be dope to just kind of go around.
Oh, that's really cool. I think that'd be really decent to see you traveling about, meeting new people, putting yourself out there a little bit. I think that's great. I think that's really
like bring some posing work, just talk about things like training, all kinds of things, just to be able to share, what we got going on.
I'm excited.
I think because the UK is there's no update yet on the Arnold's UK. So
I know. I was so sad. I know there's not. I didn't see nothing. And I was like, it's okay. Because I was like, if they had it, I was going to be doing it 100%. But it's okay. I'm going to find my way out there anyways.
It just must be happening.
It's a lot like it.
Such a shame because it was so good last year, wasn't it? Like the crowd and like, it was just brilliant. I really enjoyed it.
I did too. Yeah, I want to say.
Maybe 2026. Well, look, Jazz. Me and the girls want to wish you the best of luck for the Arnolds. Of course, if you're heading over to FIBO, you're gonna have an absolute blast because it's been a while since FIBO's taking place. The FIBO Championships, huge prize money. It's going to bring in so many people from all over Europe and the world. It's going to be mega. It's going to be the biggest show in Europe when it comes to a pro qualifier and expo event. And of course, then all roads lead to Olympia. And I think we're all buzzing to see how that plays out. But Arnold's first up. It's great that it's unfortunate Laura Lee can't make it. But what it does do, it adds now a new narrative between, obviously, like you mentioned, Amy, who came second last year, yourself third Olympia, Angelica's last show before she retires at Bikini. Mm-hmm. There's another narrative there, which all of a sudden creates a storyline of what's going to happen here in the Bikini category Arnold's, which is going to draw more eyes onto it, which is going to be super exciting.
It's going to be so fun. I know. I'm excited for it. It's time.
Well, let's get it.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it so much for having me on.
No, it's been really, really good to have you on, to be honest. Thanks for sharing your insight, your story, and everything in between.
Absolutely.